Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2. This is my inspiration. Um, if we had to start, as far as for the automotive stuff, like I grew up doing everything because my dad did HVAC. Um, I had family members and friends who were contractors. I had a little bit of everything available to me as far as for knowledge. If I wanted it, I basically took as much as I could in. But primarily for, especially with this stuff, um, my grandfather, Ed Stout, um, between the age of 8 and 10, he had, if I was able to pick up a wrench, he had me help, or even younger, like to work on the tractors, uh, learn how to change a spare, rotate tires. Now, with that day and age, not many people have heard of doing that anymore. Now, granted, my parents are considered boomers. I'm technically considered a millennial, but I don't follow any of that crap. Like, I know how to drive stick. I know how to do all the stuff that they claim millennials don't know how to do. Um, but yeah, Edward Stout, uh, my grandfather, he was in the military. My great grandfather, he was a mechanic. My grandfather was a mechanic, and it was a detriment. And actually, it was very important to me that the fact that during his eulogy, because he had passed away a couple years ago, that my aunt actually put in there that I followed as a mechanic, and as far as for what he was teaching me and stuff. So that was close to home for me. Um, but growing up, I've always taken stuff apart, put stuff together, and especially like radios, everyone Walkmans, stuff like that, and cassette players. I always took them apart, and half the time I didn't even know how to put them back together. Um, but then I went from there to lawnmowers and stuff like that. Um, I was always there, including our neighbor Mike Melhorn. He and yes, I'm naming names, and hopefully I can embarrass somebody. Uh, but he had an older Ram, a second gen Ram. Actually, it might have been the same year as the truck that I have now. Um, he had me help him put a starter on. Now, of course, this is on Garfield Street in York PA by Fargo Park. So if anyone knows where that is, it's a downhill slope. So we're on a hill trying to put a starter in this truck. Uh, so he's holding the flashlight. I'm putting it in, taking it out, and it was definitely an experience. But going from there, like just growing up, like I've always been interested in doing that and working on stuff, and like learning how to drive stick. That was pretty cool. I learned how to drive a 3-speed on a tree, ride dirt bikes, all that fun, happy stuff. Um, I think the biggest thing is that everyone made it important for me to know as much as I could of anything, whether what I did with the information, and I either kept it or I didn't. Uh, I retained most of it, not all of it. Nobody does. I really wish that more kids were up to learning this stuff, so that way they can understand how the world works. Because one of these days, who knows, they might not have a chance to call someone or call AAA to have them come help them because they could be in the middle of nowhere. But like I was always one of those ones cut the muffler off so it sounds cool. Take the air cleaner out so it sounds like a turbo. Uh, but if you had to think about it, it all came down to working on an old Ford tractor and learning how the wiring worked, learning how to work a clutch on an actual regular lawnmower. My very first job, was at Alton and Lube in York, which that particular building is actually a Mavis now, which Mavises are popping up everywhere, but that's beside the point. Regardless, like this guy Bobby Marine, he drank Pedialyte all the time, which it is what it is. He thought he was this big MMA fighter. But he always treated me like crap, had me clean toilets, put stuff away, then send me home. I was going to hack at the time. And going from there, I just kind of worked my way up. So I went from shop to shop, which I'll talk about here in the next one. But bottom line is, my biggest inspiration to get through anything was my grandfather. He always pushed to make sure I learned something. As he got older, he, of course, was dealing with memory problems. So when I said that lifts went up easily, of course, he's thinking about back when he worked at a Chevy dealership in around Beaver. I want to say Midland, but I can't ultimately remember. It's out towards Beaver Valley in western PA. And on how they wouldn't go up as fast as they do now. Well, it's a lot different from then to now. But regardless, he was always there to answer questions, as was everybody in my family to answer questions about a lot of things. When it came to the automotive field, him and my uncle worked on airplanes. But there was always somebody around the mechanical side to get me moving. And I just took it from there. So, there's that. We'll move on to episode 3 after this in a little while.